A man in a modest suit walks into Europe's most elite business gala. Wine is poured on him in front of 300 guests. They laugh. They mock. No one knows he's the silent investor behind their €750 million deal. Before the night ends, everything will change. Subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss stories where quiet dignity defeats loud arrogance. Your support keeps these powerful tales coming. Now, let's begin. Those nights when everything looks perfect on the surface, but something cold hides underneath? That was the night Luca Moretti stepped into the Chateau Bellevue Grand Hall in Geneva, Switzerland. He wore a navy suit, clean, well-fitted, but nothing that screamed money. His watch was simple. No gold chains. No designer logos flashing from his cuffs. Just a man who looked comfortable. Unremarkable, some might say. And that's exactly how he liked it. Let them wonder. Let them guess. The chateau glowed like a jewel box that evening. Crystal chandeliers hung from vaulted ceilings, casting warm light over marble floors. Champagne towers sparkled near every corner. Women floated past in gowns that cost more than most people's cars. Men laughed too loud, ties loosened, already celebrating a deal that hadn't even been signed yet. Everyone was talking about it. The merger. €750 million. A tech partnership that would reshape the industry across Europe. On every screen in the hall, one name kept flashing: Vanderbilt Innovations. Luca moved through the crowd slowly, hands relaxed at his sides, eyes taking in every detail. He'd been stopped once already, at the entrance. The security guard had looked him up and down, hesitated, then asked, "Excuse me, sir, are you with the catering staff?" Luca had smiled gently and pulled out his invitation, a black card with a silver embossed seal. The guard's face flushed. He stepped aside quickly, muttering an apology. But the energy stayed with Luca as he walked inside. People noticed him, but not in the way they noticed the others. A woman in an emerald gown glanced at him, then whispered something to her friend. They both looked back, clutching their champagne flutes a little tighter, as if he might brush past them and somehow disturb their shine. Near the bar, a man in a tailored tuxedo cut directly in front of Luca and said with a smirk, "Staff orders at the side entrance, yes?" Then he laughed, sharp and dismissive. Luca just shifted to the side and quietly ordered sparkling water. No reaction. No confrontation. He didn't need to explain himself. Not yet. At the far end of the hall, a stage had been set up, draped in white silk and gold trim. Cameras pointed toward it like hungry eyes. A host in a silver suit tapped the microphone, and the room fell into a practiced hush. "Ladies and gentlemen," the host began, voice smooth as silk, "welcome to the Vanderbilt Innovations Gala. Tonight, we celebrate a historic moment. A €750 million merger that will change not just our industry, but the future of technology across Europe." Applause erupted. Glasses lifted. Phones came out to capture the moment. Luca stayed near a marble column, close enough to see everything, far enough to remain invisible. He watched the stage with calm eyes, his expression unreadable. Then she appeared. Isabella Vanderbilt glided onto the stage in a gown that shimmered gold under the lights. Her hair was pinned in an elegant twist. Her smile was wide, practiced, perfect. Beside her stood her husband, Christoph Vanderbilt, the CEO, the face of the company. His suit was pressed sharp, his jaw set in that confident way powerful men wear like armor. The crowd adored them. Phones flashed. Whispers of admiration spread like wildfire. But Luca didn't move. He just watched. And in his chest, beneath the calm exterior, his heart beat steady and sure. Because no one in that room knew the truth. No one knew that the man standing quietly by the column, the man they'd dismissed and overlooked, the man in the simple navy suit, was the reason this entire night existed. And before the evening ended, they would all find out. The whispers started before Luca even moved from his spot by the column. A woman in a diamond necklace leaned toward her companion, eyes flicking in Luca's direction. "That man, he keeps lingering near the VIP section. Do you think he's supposed to be here?" Her friend laughed softly, sipping champagne. "Maybe he's someone's driver. Cute suit though, probably rented." Luca heard them. He always heard them. But he didn't react. He simply adjusted his cuff and continued observing the room, his face calm, his presence steady. A server passed by carrying a tray of champagne flutes. One glass tipped slightly, and before it could fall, Luca reached out gently and steadied it. The young server, a girl who couldn't have been older than 20, looked up, startled. "Thank you, sir," she whispered, eyes wide with surprise. Luca smiled kindly. "Careful, It's a long night. She nodded and hurried off, but not before another guest noticed. An older man with silver hair muttered to his wife, "Did you see that? He's trying so hard to look important. Helping the staff. Pathetic." Then Isabella spotted him. Her eyes locked onto Luca from across the room, and something shifted in her expression. Amusement, maybe. Or annoyance. She whispered something to Christoph, and his gaze followed hers. His brow furrowed. They moved toward him together, heels clicking on marble, confidence radiating from every step. Isabella arrived first, her gold gown catching the light like a warning. She looked Luca up and down slowly, deliberately. Her smile was thin. "Excuse me," she said, voice sweet but sharp. "Are you lost?" Luca met her eyes calmly. "No. I'm exactly where I need to be." Christoph stepped forward, hand casually in his pocket, posture relaxed but commanding. "This section is for investors and board members. If you're looking for the general seating." "I'm fine here," Luca said quietly. "Just observing." Christoph's smile tightened. "Observing." He exchanged a glance with Isabella. "Right." A small crowd had started to form, sensing something was about to happen. Phones came out subtly, cameras angled just right. Isabella's voice rose slightly, just enough for others to hear. "Darling, I think he's confused. Maybe he thought this was open to the public." Laughter rippled through the nearby guests. Soft, polite, cruel. Luca remained still. His voice stayed gentle. "I'm not confused. But thank you for your concern." That calm, that unshakable calm, seemed to irritate Isabella more than anything else. Her jaw tightened. She turned to a passing server and plucked a full glass of red Bordeaux from the tray. "You know what?" she said, turning back to Luca, her eyes cold now. "If you're going to pretend to belong here, at least look the part." And then she lifted the glass. Time seemed to slow. Luca saw it coming. He could have stepped back, could have said something, but he didn't. The wine poured over his head in a slow, deliberate stream. It soaked into his hair, ran down his forehead, dripped onto his shoulders and chest. The dark red stain spread across his navy suit like a wound. Gasps filled the room. Someone whispered, "Oh my God." Phones lifted higher. Videos started recording. Christoph laughed, a sharp, ugly sound. "Now you look like you belong at the bottom, where you started." Isabella handed the empty glass back to a frozen server, her smile triumphant. "Maybe next time, you'll know your place." Luca stood there, wine dripping from his chin. His eyes, those calm, steady eyes, swept across the crowd. Across the cameras. Across the faces frozen between shock and amusement. He wiped his face slowly with the back of his hand. And then he spoke. His voice was soft, but it cut through the silence like a blade. "Kindness costs nothing," he said. "I hope one day you remember that." He didn't shout, didn't threaten, didn't even sound angry. He just turned and walked toward the exit, his footsteps steady, his head held high. The crowd parted for him. No one said a word. A young waiter near the door whispered to another, "Did you see his face?" He wasn't scared. He was sad. "Yeah," the other whispered back. "Sad for them." Luca pushed through the glass doors and stepped into the cool Geneva night. The sounds of the gala faded behind him. Laughter, music, the clinking of glasses. He reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone. His fingers were steady as he dialed a single number. A voice answered immediately. "Yes, sir?" Luca's voice was quiet. "Final. Pull the agreement. All of it. Effective immediately." "Understood, sir." He ended the call, slipped the phone back into his pocket, and kept walking. Behind him, inside the chateau, the music played on. But not for long. Inside the Chateau Bellevue, the music stopped mid-note. The screens flickered once, twice, then went completely black. The host froze on stage, his smile collapsing like a house of cards. A man in a gray suit rushed through the crowd, phone pressed against his ear, his face draining of color with every word he heard. He climbed onto the stage and whispered something urgent to the host. The host's eyes went wide. His hand trembled as he gripped the microphone. Christoph noticed first. "What's happening?" he demanded, striding toward the stage. The host swallowed hard, his voice shaking. The signing. It's been suspended." The room erupted. "Suspended," someone shouted. "That's impossible," a woman in diamonds gasped. "You don't just freeze a 750 million euros deal." Isabella's face went pale beneath her makeup. She grabbed Christoph's arm. "Fix this. Now." Christoph turned to the host, his voice sharp with panic. "Who authorized this?" "I'm the CEO." Nobody suspends MY deal. The host looked terrified. Sir, the order came from the primary investor. It's final. Primary investor? Christoph's voice cracked. I don't even know who that is. We've been dealing through intermediaries for months. Across the hall, executives frantically checked their phones. Alerts flooded in, each one worse than the last. Every account connected to Vanderbilt Innovations just got frozen, someone shouted. Partners are pulling out, another voice added. My entire portfolio just went red. Then a young woman near the back held up her phone, her voice cutting through the chaos. Wait, isn't this the man they humiliated? People crowded around her screen. The video played, Isabella pouring wine over Luca's head. Christoph's cruel laughter. Luca's quiet dignity as he walked away. The caption read, They destroyed a man they thought was nobody. He left without a word. Now their empire is falling. Who is he? The video had already been shared thousands of times. A guest whispered, He walked out like he owned the place. Another added, Because maybe he did. Isabella's hands shook as she grabbed her own phone. Her face went from pale to ashen as she read the alerts flooding her screen. Christoph, our stock is crashing. Everything is crashing. A board member pushed through the crowd, his face twisted in fury. Do you have any idea what you've done? Christoph spun around. I haven't done anything. Tell me what's happening. The board member's voice dropped to a horrified whisper. You just humiliated Luca Moretti. Silence. Complete, devastating silence. Isabella's champagne glass slipped from her fingers and shattered on the marble floor. Who is Luca Moretti? Christoph's voice was barely audible. The board member looked at him like he was staring at a dead man. He's the founder of Moretti Capital Group. He's the silent majority stakeholder in our partner company. He owns 60% of the firm we were merging with. Luca Moretti didn't just fund this deal. He IS'd the deal. The room spun. Christoph felt his knees weaken. The man you poured wine on, the board member continued, voice shaking with rage, controls 2 billion euros in assets across Europe. He's known in elite circles as the kind investor. He only partners with companies that treat people with dignity. Isabella pressed her hand against her mouth, tears streaming through her makeup. We poured wine on him. A server nearby whispered to another. I told you. I told you he didn't walk like staff. The other server nodded slowly. He helped me pick up broken glasses earlier. He didn't have to, but he did. The days that followed were brutal. Headlines screamed across every major publication. Tech empire collapses after CEO humiliates secret investor. 750 million euro deal dies in one night. Video goes viral. The kindness test. How Vanderbilt Innovations failed spectacularly. By morning, Vanderbilt Innovations had lost half its value. By noon, 3/4. By evening, the company was worthless. Partners severed ties. Investors fled. Board members resigned in disgrace. Christoph and Isabella barely left their penthouse. The shame was suffocating. Every screen showed the video. Every article dissected their cruelty. But it was a message from an old colleague that broke Isabella completely. It read, Luca Moretti once told me he invests in character, not just capital. You showed him exactly who you are. And he believed you. She wept into her hands as Christoph sat across from her, hollow-eyed and silent. Finally, on the third day, Isabella whispered, We have to see him. We have to apologize. Christoph looked up, defeated. What's the point? Because it's the right thing to do, she said, voice cracking. Even if it changes nothing. They drove for hours, leaving the city behind. Luca's address led them to a small countryside home in Tuscany, modest, surrounded by olive trees and wildflowers. It was the opposite of everything they'd expected. Isabella's hands trembled as she knocked on the wooden door. Luca opened it. He wore a simple linen shirt and jeans. His face was calm, kind even, but his eyes held a quiet knowing. Mr. Moretti, Isabella began, her voice breaking immediately. We were wrong. So terribly wrong. Christoph stepped forward, his voice hoarse. We treated you like you were nothing. We humiliated you. And we're so sorry. Luca studied them for a long moment. Then he stepped aside. Come in. They entered hesitantly. The home was warm, filled with books and sunlight. A pot of tea sat on a simple wooden table. Luca gestured for them to sit. He poured 3 cups of tea with steady hands, then sat across from them. Why did you come here? He asked gently. Isabella wiped her eyes. Because we destroyed everything. Our company, our reputation, our future. And we deserved it. But But we needed you to know that we understand now. We understand what we did. Luca sipped his tea slowly. Do you? Christoph leaned forward, desperate. Yes. We judged you. We dismissed you. We were cruel because we thought we could be. Because we thought you didn't matter. And now? Luca asked. Now we know, Isabella whispered. Now we know that every person matters. That kindness isn't weakness. That dignity isn't something you earn, it's something you give. Luca set down his cup. His voice remained soft, but every word landed with weight. I didn't pull that deal because you didn't recognize me, he said. I pulled it because you forgot to recognize humanity. You saw someone you thought was beneath you, and you chose cruelty. Not once did you ask my name. Not once did you see me as a person. Tears streamed down Isabella's face. We're so sorry. I believe you, Luca said. But I don't do business with people who only show kindness when it benefits them. Kindness isn't a strategy. It's a choice you make when no one is watching. When there's no reward. When the person in front of you has nothing to offer you. He stood, walking to the window. The Tuscan hills stretched out before him, golden in the afternoon light. I grew up with nothing, he continued quietly. I know what it's like to be invisible, to be dismissed, to be treated like you don't matter. And I promised myself that if I ever had power, I would use it to lift people up, not tear them down. He turned back to them. You had that same power, and you chose differently. Christoph's voice broke. Is there anything at all we can do? Luca walked to the door and opened it gently. His face wasn't angry, just sad. Learn, he said. Learn that the world doesn't owe you respect because of your title. Earn it through how you treat the people no one else notices. The servers. The drivers. The ones society overlooks. Isabella stood, her legs weak. Will you ever forgive us? Luca's expression softened just slightly. I already have. But forgiveness doesn't mean partnership. It means I wish you well, from a distance. They stepped outside. The sun was setting, painting everything in shades of amber and rose. Walk carefully, Luca said, his final words kind but firm. The world is smaller than you think. And people remember how you made them feel. He closed the door quietly. Christoph and Isabella stood there for a long moment, the weight of everything settling over them like evening fog. Then they walked back to their car, different than when they'd arrived. Broken, yes. But maybe, just maybe, beginning to understand. 6 months later, Luca sat in a small cafe in Florence, reviewing proposals. A young woman approached nervously, an entrepreneur with an idea but no funding. Mr. Moretti? She asked shyly. I know you're busy, but... Luca smiled and gestured to the seat across from him. I'm never too busy. Tell me about your dream. Her eyes lit up. Across town, in a tiny office, Christoph and Isabella ran a nonprofit now, teaching business ethics to young entrepreneurs. It was humble work, quiet work, but it was honest. They would never rebuild their empire, but they were rebuilding themselves. And somewhere, in a sunlit cafe, Luca Moretti continued doing what he'd always done, investing in people. One act of kindness at a time. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who needs to remember that kindness is the truest form of power. Follow for more stories where quiet dignity defeats loud arrogance, and where good people finish first. Because in the end, character is the only currency that truly matters.